This episode today is going to start off a bit different than most. Here we are at the boat docks at the Nantahala River. You know, that place where the paddlers put in for a trip downriver. However, we are going to be taking this trail across this bridge. You see, we are on a hunt. I have no idea as to whether or not what we are hunting for still exists. This episode, therefore, is not going to start directly with an intro to some town or even some site. No, instead, it's going to start with a hike. Once we find what we are looking for, then we can open up that can of worms that is the historical sketch. But for this one, I have with me this guy. And this guy, well, he's got this bizarre YouTube channel and some kind of TikTok channel I have yet to wrap my head around. For this episode, though, I and he, well, we are going on a hunt for something that will bring this episode much more into focus.
Okay, folks, we do need to cross this bridge. How does that sound?
It's pretty sound to me.
Yeah, pretty sturdy, huh?
Mm-hmm. It ain't going nowhere.
Nope. It better not, because we got to go across it. And I don't want to fall in the river today. I don't think you do either, do you?
That water is 53 degrees. That is too cold.
Yes, that is correct. It comes from the bottom of the lake. That is cold water. But on a hot 80-degree day,
Might feel
doesn't
good.
sound too bad.
I can't swim, so I'd be done.
Oh. Well, all you need to do is float on your back. You don't need to swim.
Yeah, I might be more buoyant now.
You might need to swim to get out of the river, though. You mean to tell me you can't even move your arms to get out of the water?
I mean, I couldn't float because I used to sink, but it might be a little bit more buoyant now.
Why, a big fat stomach?
Yeah. You see, the skinnier you are, the more you sink.
Is that true?
I don't know. Never tested it.
I don't know. We need to try Dylan for that one. But anyway.
What you are looking at right here is the remains of an old house that no longer stands. Well, its chimney does. Apparently, around it, there is said to be the remains of yet another chimney. But we'll get into that house later.
What's up with that? It's so loose.
Yeah, I went to lean on it and I went...
Ooh.
No.
I mean, there's a lock on the bottom of it.
Yeah,
That's not holding it there. Well, it is holding it there. I guess you can't take it off.
It's supposed to sit flush.
Yeah, but it's loose.
And this bar is supposed to come out like this. And then you lift it off. But what purpose does this serve? I wonder.
Well, I mean, it's serving its purpose because you can't fit a car on either side of it.
Yeah, that makes sense, so you don't drive cars.
Yeah, because this is a hiking trail, not fit for cars. I don't even know if I would in front of... I mean, my car would fit through here, but it is very narrow.
I could pick that one.
Yes, you could. You watch that YouTube channel, don't you? That lock-picking guru, whatever.
Lock-picking lawyer.
Lock-picking lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now we know what he does on his spare time.
Yeah.
You see this section of land here around the river? Well, as this aerial view clearly shows, it is a little valley.
Tell me, have you heard of Jarretts?
Like Jeff Jarrett, or he went to Jarrett?
No, Jarretts is a town in Swain County. It's a historic town.
Nice.
You never knew that.
No, can't say that I have.
Well, you're stepping on land right now that was once a part of that town. Yes, I'm not sure how old this road here is. It is now nothing more than a hiking trail. But Jarretts, it had some stuff back in the day.
probably up there.
Up here? Actually, no. It was down along the river here. Around where the boat docks are and heading in this direction. At the border of Swain and Macon counties.
Historically, this was the site of a long-forgotten town, Jarretts, which, believe it or not, once had a train station. Here we are once again at the boat docks.
Nantahela's got its own little river dog.
Which is nice and cool.
Yeah.
This area here is where, today, the commercial put-in and the nearby powerhouse are located. Now, the key word here is commercial. You know, folks here today, they might think the big cash register is at Wesser at the Nantahela Outdoor Center. However, as you will soon learn, the longest lived and most productive one is here.
Utility ahead. Tell me, what is that here for?
Oh, you go down the power plant down there.
Power plant's not down there.
This is like,
Power plant is over there.
I fixed their sign.
Why do they got that across here? They really don't want cars over here.
Really? Apparently cars must go over here at some point, otherwise why would they have a sign that goes like this?
Years ago, that probably was true. But they could still put a sign like that to let you know that this is anything but a straight trail. And also, be careful coming here in the rain. It's a flash flood hazard. I guess this river here likes to flood at times.
Do you think it'd ever get this high though?
I mean, it would have to be like a major flood, but probably.
Tsunami.
No, 100-year flood, I could see it coming up here, definitely.
Sure.
I could see it coming up over there, too. Uh-oh, we've got rafters, folks. These people want to go down this river?
Who would do that?
Good question. What kind of souls are they? They want to go down the river. Even with a kayaker. Would you do something like that?
I have done something like that.
Well, so have I.
It's still cold.
It is cold. Although this river isn't that adventurous. It's adventurous, but it's a family river. You want more adventure? Remember the Chattooga? Oh, come on. That was an awesome river, you got to admit.
And it went like this.
Well, that's what makes the river so fun. It's got vertical drops. It's got 7-foot falls.
I went down the 7-foot falls. My butt was hanging on to everybody. I'm not going in there.
Never again.
No.
I've done it like 3 times. I've even duckied section 3.
I think the water was 1.5 feet high with a 7-foot drop this way.
Yeah, 1.5 feet high is a little bit low. But, well, maybe not. I gotta look that up because they classify that river in terms of feet, not so much cubic feet per second. But I know that sounds a bit low.
Yeah, it was a bit low.
But anyway, we have to move on here.
So, here is an excerpt from a listing of Swain County post offices. Likely, at first, it was referred to as Jarrett, then Jarretts. Whatever the case, it appears to have been an active town from 1885 to 1903. But, folks, let me warn you right now, don't go trying to put the name Jarrett or Jarretts in your GPS. You will find nothing. The only reference to it you will find is in gazetteers that have arcane historic towns among their listings, such as this one right here, Roadside Thoughts. Furthermore, it is unclear as to where exactly the town of Jarretts or Jarretts Station was situated, it is listed as having been in Swain County. This area here, yes, it is just outside the county line. This area here is a part of Macon County and goes by the name of Beechertown, which has been associated historically with Jarretts. For this episode, however, we're going to be focusing not on Beechertown, no, but on Jarretts, regardless of where it may have been. Okay, so finding information on Jarretts, it's quite a daunting task. To pinpoint exactly where it may have been located could even get quite confusing. All in all, it stood within the immediate vicinity of the Macon and Swain county line, around this area. There are very few sources around that shed much light on Jarretts, though some information can be found on Nimrod Simpson Jarrett, who the long-gone town was likely named after.
That may be well and true, but I have to ask this guy a question.
Okay.
I heard you mumbling before. Were you shooting some kind of TikTok video?
I was indeed. I found a shell.
Wow! Right here on the Nantahala.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know there are snails here, but that's kind of a big one.
Yeah.
I didn't know there were big ones like that around here.
This has got a nice color to it and everything.
That could be worth some money.
Yes. I see people selling these shells all over the place. So.
I don't know. Maybe you can get yourself a couple hundred for that.
Yeah. I don't know about 100.
Yeah, probably not.
A fully intact shell.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Is that the kind you can put to your ear and hear the ocean?
Here's something. Especially if it's got a snail in it.
Yeah. Maybe. I guess around here you'd hear the river, not the ocean. Yeah. But I don't know. You found something cool and spectacular. A snail shell.
Mm-hmm.
Right here on the Nantahala.
Some all sorts of things out here in the Nantahala.
Yeah. There's all sorts of little treasures hidden around here. We've got the chimneys and a snail. What more? Snakes. What more do you think we would find out here?
Who knows? Bears.
Yeah, bears. Haven't seen one of those yet.
Not yet.
Firstly, though, it should be noted that Nimrod Simpson Jarrett should not be confused with Nimrod Jarrett Smith, who was a Cherokee chief. Yes, I know, both are associated with the western reaches of North Carolina. This here is a book, The Nantahala River, A History and Guide. It likely holds the best description of what Jarretts once was. Therefore, much of the information for this episode is largely going to come from a section of this book. Well, that, and an article from this edition of the Franklin Press, specifically this article. So, Nimrod Simpson Jarrett was among the first persons to have started something on the Nantahala River. The origins of Jarrett, having been associated with this area, they date way back, way back, to when the Cherokee had the most stake in this area. Let me explain. This man Jarrett, he arrived in Nantahala country prior to the Cherokee removal in 1838, and he is listed as having assisted General Winfield Scott during the removal, as scout. Since this area was the outskirts of the largest Cherokee town in the basin, Nantahala town, yes, Jarrett, he likely traded for ginseng with the Indians in and around this area right here. And Jarrett, he continued trading with the Cherokees after the removal. He wrote in a letter to a friend in 1852, I have sent a lot of fat cattle on the turnpike to Charleston and expect to overtake them before they reach here. Jarrett, he added that he was going to purchase some goods to sell to the Indians, as they had recently received a large payment, and everybody in the county is trying to set some trap for it, and me among the rest. Jarrett was the first to recognize the potential of a 77-acre tract around this section here, near where the Nantahala River takes a dramatic right turn. He filed a state land grant for it on December 9th of 1853. Those 70 acres plus parts of the two adjoining sections of land would become the most economically productive chunk of land in the entire Nantahala watershed. Today, folks, they are the location of the river put-ins and the nearby powerhouse. But decades and decades before any of that was present, yeah, Jarrett, he built a house and operated a trading post here by 1860. Okay, folks, this over here is where this long-forgotten town of Jarretts is said to have been located, like within this immediate vicinity, and it is believed to once have been a train station. Sometimes it was referred to as Jarrett's Station. The thing is, though, well, yeah, the river, it is over there. But moving on to the other side of the main road, I do not see a railroad track nearby. No, instead, I see this big mountain. Now, there are tracks, believe me. They are just on the other side of this big mountain, which is fine, I guess, but the tracks, they do not appear to have been laid directly next to Jarretts. Strange for a station. I doubt they have been moved, but who knows? Furthermore, as you will soon find out, a spur track is supposed to have been laid in the area likely across the river. Yes, it does make you wonder. But being a man ahead of his time, Jarrett, yeah, he named it Jarrett's Station in anticipation of the future railroad from Asheville into the southwestern mountains. Now, that pretty much sums up the origins of how Jarretts came to be. But, folks, we are not done yet, 'cause there is more to this story. Yes, Jarrett, he built a house. Could this be the chimney of that house? Likely not. As I said, this story is not over yet.
Hey, look!
It's a snake.
There's a snake up here!
He's just chilling.
Yeah. All the way up here he goes.
Must be a nice spot to hang out.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't fall.
Yeah.
They have been known to fall off trees into rafts going down the river.
Is he alive?
Yes, he's alive. He's got his head over, probably wondering what we're doing down here.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to climb up there and touch him.
Yeah.
How does he even climb up there without falling?
And shift his body through the rocks.
Yeah? He does look motionless, but I'm pretty sure he's alive. I don't think he'd die in that position.
No.
Oh well.
That'd be a bad way to die.
Yup.
It appears there may have been a train station here at Jarretts, because, well, this railroad, it reached Bryson City in 1884. During that same year, on November 23rd, to be exact, it reached what came to be called Jarretts Station. And there it stayed for a long time, due to the fact that a tunnel had been contemplated right here, through Red Marble Gap, at the top of which can be found the town of Topton in Cherokee County. The tunnel, though, it never got built, the reasons for which are beyond the scope of this episode, given this area is technically out of bounds. There may have been no tunnel built, but the railroad? It did eventually get extended past Jarretts, on its way to Andrews. With that said, still, this story, it is not over.
So tell me, did you know that Swain County once had a winery?
I think I heard something about that.
Yup. There used to be grapevines all over this area.
Nothing anymore.
No. I don't think there's even the remnants of a grapevine here. Maybe if you look closely enough, but I bet they have all decayed. Now, it has been reclaimed by a big forest.
Yeah, even then the trees are kind of barren too.
I don't know. You tell me. Does any of these look like they might bear grapes?
You see, Alexander P. Munday, the son-in-law of and administrator for Nimrod Jarrett, sold land here to Matthew Cole on November 11th of 1875. Now, Cole and his wife Sarah built an impressive 2-story house, planted a vineyard and orchard, and before long were exporting wine and cider around the South. So, yes, the Nantahala, it once had a winery. Now, folks, tell me, could this then be the chimney from that 2-story house? We'll get into that soon. But first, let me say, that land sold, it was located across the river from the present Nantahala River launch site.
What's up, Ray? It's Matt.
Hey!
Do you recognize me?
Yeah, how's
it going?
Yo, it's Dale!
Where are you hanging out now, man?
We're doing a video on the area.
Oh, God.
Historic documentary.
You know, I subscribed to your channel. I saw you on YouTube. I can't believe it.
Yeah, we both got some videos up. He's even got some strange...
The Ingles?
Yep, still stuck
Okay,
there.
I'll see you around.
See you?
I'll see you everywhere.
Now, this launch site, it is owned by the United States Forest Service. Well, many years ago, this man, Bill Lee, a photographer who did extensive research on this area for the Forest Service, discovered that Cole had established a vineyard and winery on his farm, which had quite a long and prosperous run. Apparently, there is a 1904 map drawn by the Knoxville Power Company that shows the location of the farmhouse and a nearby wine cellar. Now, folks, by now, if you have watched enough of these episodes, you should know how this works. Yes, I mentioned a map. How do I know it exists? Well, I don't, but a document says it does.
Now, if you are not seeing the map, what does that mean?
It means I don't get a signal for Google.
If you are not seeing the map as I talk about it, what does that mean? Well, likely that means I was not able to get my hands on it, at least not easily. Sorry.
And I told you, do not put Jarrett in that Google thingy, GPS thingy of yours.
It don't work.
I know. I said that earlier.
Yeah? Well, it doesn't even matter. I can't get no signal anyways. I got 4G with no bars.
I told you, don't use that out here. We're in the mountains.
So I gotta do this.
Yeah, maybe. You do know they didn't have cell phones back in those days.
Yeah, they didn't even have landlines back in some days.
No, back in the 1800s they didn't.
Yeah.
Not until the telephone was invented.
Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh yeah, you know that, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
See, you learned something in school.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
History. I was never good at history.
Then you wouldn't be good at making these videos.
Yeah. I'm good at math, I'm good at science. Which, if Gory Boys Productions knows, we got a bit of science in our videos too.
Yeah, some of that stuff you do though, I don't know if science would cut it.
Now, Lee, he might have been a photographer, but he must have also been an interviewer. Reportedly, he had interviewed Mrs. Billy Reighard, a granddaughter of Matthew and Sarah Cole, who lived on the farm as a young child. Well, she remembered government inspectors coming to check the barrels of wine and stamping the barrels when they passed inspection.
What do we have up here? It looks like trees are growing in the road. It's like the road is cracked by tree trunks and roots.
Perfectly rooted.
Yeah.
Nature's taking its claim back.
That's true.
Grapevines. They grew from just behind the house, down the river, as far as this bridge here, at winding stairs, and also up the river from the house. Cole, he had trained the vines to grow on frames and harvested the grapes using horse and wagon. The Coles, they also raised bees, grew apples, and made apple cider. At one time, they were said to have 800 apple trees.
So, he found this sign.
What do I got here? It's North Carolina Public Mountain Trout Water, no lure restrictions.
No lure, hatchery supported.
You would get a daily limit of 7 fish per season. Is that what I'm reading here? First Saturday in April to last day in February. So you're only allowed to catch 7 fish? Or is that daily?
No. Season is first Saturday in April to last day of February.
Daily limit.
Daily limit is 7 fish.
You can only catch 7 fish
in one day. Most people probably don't even catch that many. My father came down here and caught 2.
You'd like to catch any?
Yeah.
Well, what's the hatchery?
Because this river is stocked.
Oh, they fill it.
That's exactly, and that's why they charge you for getting a permit so they can restock the river, because they wouldn't have that many fish here if they didn't stock it.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, nothing's free.
No, never is.
I mean, you could do it on the Indian reservation, but it's actually more money to get a permit over there, I think.
I believe it. That's why most people hide in the woods when they fish.
Do they really do that?
I never fished. Well, I take it back. I fished twice in my life.
I know Dylan said he had, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, we have to move on.
When the winery was in full operation, it produced an average of 2,000 gallons of wine per year, but it was not intended for local consumption. No, it was shipped by train to some guy named J. Riley Davis. My guess, this Davis guy, he was some kind of famous whiner, maybe out of state.
Not sure. Do you know?
I don't know much of anything.
So you don't know nothing about this Davis guy and the old winery and...
Not really.
So tell me, did you know that in the 1920s there was something called prohibition?
I did know that.
You did know that.
Mm-hmm. The illegalization of alcohol. They had to use, like silent room or something like that. They would have to sneak down into certain places and stuff like that to drink illegally.
Right, I think they called them speakeasies.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't supposed to do that either, but you know how people are.
Yeah.
They gotta have their alcohol.
You gotta get drunk one way or another.
Now, for those of you that do not know, there was, in the 1920s, something called prohibition. It was when the nation made alcohol illegal. However, that did not put the enterprising Coles out of business. Oh no, they switched their production from wine to grape juice, selling the juice with a packet of sugar and instructions on winemaking. Hey, at least grape juice. That's something this guy can drink.
Little green bug. Wow, that's a cute little green bug. That's a cute little green bug. Oh, I wouldn't touch him if I... Ooh, where'd he go?
You don't fly them.
Where'd he go? Can't get him on the camera here. There he is. Oh, yes, he does fly.
You know, the Coles, they used their land in other income-producing ways as well. In 1888, they conveyed the slate and mining privileges to Nimrod Jarrett's daughter, Howard Iowa Keener. Now, I am assuming the mining privileges are likely those having to do with the nearby Talc Mountain area, which historically did have ties to that man Nimrod Jarrett. Furthermore, in 1891, they granted the Nantahala Lumber and Manufacturing Company a 5-year lease to use part of their tract on the river as a basin or reservoir to hold logs for a mill site near the Cole residence. Then, in 1903, the Southern Railroad Company acquired the right to build and operate a spur track on the Cole land. On the Cole land? Okay, folks, tell me, where might have a spur track been located around here? On this trail I'm walking?
So we walked a little bit down this trail. So folks, tell me, could the spur trail have been located over here? Because there is a big clearing where the power lines are now put through. So could it have been over here and they ripped out the tracks and used this to erect power lines?
Pure speculation, but it's possible.
Pure speculation. No evidence to support it. Anything's possible, though.
It would make sense
I mean,
because it's heading towards the river.
Well, the spur trail, I would think, would have to somewhere meet up with the tracks, which are on the other side of the river over there.
Oh, and get a load of this. In 1906, Matthew Cole, he granted a lease to the Nantahala Railroad Flume and Transportation Company for building and erecting a flume. Wow, a flume here on the Nantahala? You've got to be kidding me. You know, a log flume? It's a long thingy, looking a lot like a water slide. It is used to transport logs by floating them down mountain terrain. Wow. They had something like that right here? Who would have known? Well, records of this flume company, apparently they do exist. tucked away somewhere in the state archives in Raleigh, or at least they were in the late 1990s.
Okay, folks, I have to ask you a question. This huge, big boulder right here, how did that get here? Do you have any ideas?
There's no mountainside there. There's no mountainside here.
No, I mean, it would have to go a long way down the mountain over there to reach this point.
Well, it'd have to come from all the way there, roll all the way down here, roll
across the road and nicely situate against this tree. I mean, yes, the tree might have blocked it, and if it came down that way, it would have somehow, miraculously, have crossed the river. So tell me.
It didn't take out any other tree over here.
No, there's a lot of trees in its way that I would think it would have stopped someplace down there anyway. How did that get here? Any ideas, science man?
That had to be placed.
Do you know how heavy that has to be?
Whoa. Let's find out, boys. Oh, yeah.
No, I don't think, I mean, maybe if he can muster enough strength of a wrestler, Dylan could possibly lift at least a portion of that up.
You get Dylan and Draga together.
Maybe. That might work.
Possible.
Thank you for that advice, science man.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly it was transported here by the river during a flood. Not sure. Anyhow, this land, it remained in the Cole family until 1926. It was then sold to the Nantahala Power and Light Company, which used the farmhouse as housing for employees who worked in the nearby powerhouse. Today, all that remains of that once prosperous coal farm are the two chimneys of that comfortable old home. The Forest Service installed this interpretive display at the site, based on Bill Lee's research.
So, you've got to tell me, did you see any interpretive display around here installed by the Forest Service?
Doesn't look like it.
Well, document tells me they're supposed to be. Tell me, where was it ever put up, or where did it go?
Well, did this chimney fall before or after?
Well, no, because they talk about a chimney that collapsed, and then they talk about the one still standing, and we know it's still standing. But they've never, either they never did install this, it was just a thought that never materialized, or they did and it was taken down or destroyed or something.
Well, that's just the thing. I don't see where there would be, unless they bolted it on the chimney and they ripped it off.
Yeah, but I don't think that's really from that. I mean, down there it looks like that too, and up there, I mean, that's just a K. I don't see any plaques anywhere around here.
There ain't nothing.
So, I don't know. I just know what the document said. But nothing like that is present here today in 2022. Anyway, you don't need that. All you need is to watch this video to find out about these chimneys in the area around here called Jarretts. It probably would be more informative than the plaque would have been anyway, because I have a little bit more time than what can be written on a little piece of metal or whatever they use to post those.
The chimney, still standing tall, this one right here, is constructed of field rock, and it was most likely built new with the house. The nearby collapsed one, it was made of cut quarry stone, and it was probably added later. So, folks, if you ever take the trail beyond this here launch site via this bridge over the river and come across a chimney in the woods, now you know what that is all about. I could go on about the powerhouse too, but that area, technically, does fall under the jurisdiction of Beechertown. And that, folks, that is in Macon County. That must be saved for some other episode. And as far as Jarretts goes, this has been Fedora Bone.